Every night you could choose anything to lull you to sleep. A gentle piece of music, the sound of falling rain, or a story told slowly and softly, woven with sacred secrets from thousands of years ago. Whispers once carried by prophets and angels, traces of the Creator left in every star, all written down in ancient books long forgotten, now gently spoken again, so you can sleep and listen. Tonight, we travel not into legend, but into the space between scripture and silence, into the shadow where the morning star once stood before the throne, where he burned not in rebellion but in light, before the war, before the name Lucifer became a byword for pride. Before he fell, he ruled. But what does he rule over now? This is the story of the throne he once sat on, the kingdom he lost, and the strange dominion that still bears his name. Though cast down, he was not destroyed, not then, and perhaps not even now. For in forgotten texts, in prophecies wrapped in riddles, in gospels banned and scrolls sealed, the story is not so simple. There are thrones not made by hand, crowns not forged by gold, and kingdoms not lit by the sun. Lucifer's throne, once dazzling, once divine, is said to remain, hidden in plain sight, over realms not seen, over thoughts, over desire, over the glint in the eye before temptation, over the silence after a lie. And some say it waits to rise again. So let your eyes grow heavy. Let the stillness gather around you. Let the stars above become scrolls unfurling slowly. And let this be your lullaby, the slow, sacred unraveling of a mystery as old as Eden. If these whispers of ancient truths stir your soul, let your heart guide you to stay close, to drift deeper, to listen longer, to return to the place where secrets sleep. Sleep well. This is the story of Lucifer's throne and what he rules over now. Before the rebellion, before the name Lucifer was ever feared, he was light. He was music. He was the first to kneel before the throne and the last to rise from worship. You feel the hush now, don't you? Like the quiet that comes before dawn, still, deep, sacred. In that quiet was born one who would one day shake heaven itself. He was called Helo ben Shahar in ancient Hebrew, the Shining One, son of the morning star, not in defiance but in brilliance. He was the breath of the east wind before the sun touched the mountains. He was clothed in jewels, the prophet Ezekiel says, carnelian, topaz, emerald, and sapphire. His body a temple of music. Tabrets and pipes, it is whispered, were built into his being. Every movement is a melody, every word harmony. You see, before he was accused, he was adored. Before he was tempted, he trembled in awe. He was not born fallen. He was not forged in flame. He was called the covering cherub. He stood not beneath the throne, but over it. A protector of divine mystery, a guardian of the sacred fire. Some say he held one of the seven thunders, a secret name of God never spoken on earth. Others say he walked among the stones of fire, not in punishment but in communion. Let your thoughts settle like dust. Feel the light that once poured from him, golden, not red, soft, not scorched. He was the highest of the high, the pinnacle of all created glory, second only to the one who sits upon the throne himself. And for a time, he was content. How strange to imagine it now that he, the one we call Lucifer, was once praised by angels, that his name was once sung, not feared. The stars danced when he passed. That galaxy might have bloomed where his gaze lingered. Can you feel that sacred silence again, the kind that carries memory, that holds the breath of ages? Lucifer walked in the garden of God, says the prophet, Eden itself, not the garden of man, but a heavenly Eden, not of soil and serpent, but of sapphire floors and living flame. He was made perfect in all his ways, perfect, until, and there the story quivers. It is a wound still felt, a rift in the divine symphony, and we shall come to it soon. But for now, let yourself drift deeper into the past, the time when there was no war in heaven, when Lucifer bowed without shame, when his name echoed through the heavens like a psalm. Imagine him standing on the sea of glass before the throne, not trembling but radiant, not in chains but crowned. Before the dragon, he was a son of dawn, and the throne he knew was not his own, but he stood beside it, he reflected on it, he adored it. And still in that nearness a hunger began to whisper, but that is a tale for the next breath. For now sleep in the light of what he once was, the beauty that once sang, the harmony that once wept in joy. This is not the Lucifer of fire and fear, not yet. This is the one who I once loved. Sleep in his former light. And let your dreams remember a time when the bright one among the stars still walked in beauty. It began with a thought, so small, so quiet, so hidden, even the stars did not notice when it passed through him. Even the winds did not whisper of it, but the throne felt it. It was not anger, not yet. It was not pride, not yet. It was a longing, a seed. The seed of I not in worship, but I want to. Can you feel it? That subtle shift in your chest, as if something ancient just remembered its ache. Lucifer, the shining one, the guardian of divine light, stood so near the throne that glory brushed his wings. But still, it was not his, and the thought came, if I reflect the light, why should I not become one? If I sing the praise, why should I not receive it? If I stand beside the throne, why should I not ascend above it? These were not cries, they were not declarations, they were thoughts, a ripple in the sea of heaven, a shiver across the sapphire floor. And with each echo of I, he grew quieter. He stopped singing. The music within him, soaring once with worship, now began to hum a new melody, one that only he could hear. You can hear it now, can't you? That low tone behind your thoughts, a murmur of what might have been. Lucifer walked the stones of fire. He passed the thrones of lesser angels. He watched them bow, and he did not stop them. The first lie ever spoken was not with lips, it was with silence. When praise meant for the highest was not redirected, and heaven held its breath. The prophets speak of this moment in riddles. Isaiah saw it in a vision. How you are fallen, O morning star, son of the dawn, you said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens, I will raise my throne above the stars of God. Not aloud, in his heart. The rebellion began in silence, in secret. The Creator knew, but waited, for even angels are given choice. Lucifer still looked like light, still sounded like praise. But within, the fire changed color, from gold to blue, from warmth to want. Do you feel how quiet this story is? No shouting, no sword, just the slow unraveling of adoration. And beneath it all, the throne remained, still radiant, still ruled, still waiting. Lucifer was not cast out that day. He remained, he watched, he plotted perhaps, or perhaps he mourned. Was there sorrow in the angels who loved him? Was there trembling in Michael's hands? Did Gabriel's trumpet falter at the edge of his lips? Or did heaven weep in stillness? Because to lose one like him, it was not a small loss. He had been beloved. But the throne, the true throne, is not ruled by favoritism. It sees the heart. And in that heart, the seeds of rebellion had rooted. Still the Creator waited. He gave him time, more than time. He gave him space to return, but pride, once born, does not often die in silence, and so it grew. And the thought became desire, and desire became a plan, and the plan became war. But we are not there yet. Sleep gently in this middle place, where all could have been undone, where the morning star still stood on the edge of repentance. This is the moment before the thunder, the pause before the heavens split. And if you listen closely, you might still hear it, the whisper of the first thought echoing through time. I will ascend. There is a silence in heaven that is not peace, a waiting, a watching, like clouds that hold their rain too long, like a breath that should have been exhaled but isn't. Lucifer, the morning star, still stood among them, still clothed in radiance, still smiled like light, but the melody had changed. There are scrolls ancient, hidden, that speaks of a moment when heaven shuddered, not with rage, but with grief. He had whispered to others, not many, not at first. Just one, then 7, then 200. The book of Enoch speaks of such numbers, of angels who descended in later times, but some believe they first turned when he did. He promised them thrones of their own. Not above God, perhaps, but beside him. No more silence, no more submission, no more waiting at the edge of divine decisions. Lucifer offered freedom, but his freedom came on the wings of pride, a freedom that required they forget who breathed them into being. Can you see it now? The stars dim one by one, not falling, not yet, but blinking slowly in unison. A quiet agreement, and then the silence broke. Not with screaming, not with blood, but with Michael. It is written, there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. A dragon, not a man, not a beast, not a cherub or seraph, but a dragon. It is the name given to Lucifer when he sheds his covering of light, when he no longer hides behind the throne, when he rises against it. War, in a place where war was never meant to be, where light fought light, where worship turned to weapons. How do angels war? With fire that sings, with words that shake time, with names that tear open veils. This was not a war of steel, but of spirit. And still the throne did not tremble, because the throne is older than war, older than angels, older than light. Lucifer fell like lightning, as Jesus would later say. I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven, a streak of fury across the canvas of creation, a tear in the sky, and those who followed him, they fell too. Some say they were bound in chains of darkness, hidden in places not known to men, beneath the earth, beyond the stars. Others say they walk still, invisible, whispering, waiting. And Lucifer, he did not fall into death but into dominion, because when he landed the world cracked and something new began. But tonight as you sleep, let your thoughts return to that first war, the one not fought in hate but in heartbreak. The throne remained untouched, unshaken, but heaven had changed, and so had he. He who once covered glory now cast shadows. He who once sang now seethed. He who once adored now accused. The first war I broke, the first silence. And since that day he has been called the adversary, the accuser, the prince of the air. But we still remember what he once was and what he once ruled. Sleep now with the weight of that silence settling over your chest like a blanket. The war is done, but the throne he once sought still remains. And the world below, that is where his story continues. He fell, not into flames but into place, into purpose, into something that would look from below like power. Lucifer did not vanish when cast out. He was not destroyed. No angel is made to unmake easily. He fell like lightning, and where he struck the earth trembled, but not in the way of earthquakes, not in the cracking of stone, in the tremble of thought, of soul, of silence between breaths. He landed in the unseen realm, a world that wraps around this one like a shadow behind the light. Not quite physical, not quite spiritual. The ancients called it many names: Sheol, under heaven, the air, the place between. It is written in the scriptures, he is the prince of the power of the air, not the king of hell, not ruler of fire, but prince of the air. You feel it now, don't you? The weightless world behind your closed eyes, the whisper between dreams. That is the air he was given. He did not fall onto a throne of gold. He made one, from influence, from fear, from temptation. He rules not by command but by suggestion, not by chains but by whispers. Every age gives him a new form, a new title, a new fear. In Babylon he wore crowns. In Egypt he whispered through serpents. In Rome he sat in temples built not for God but for gods. He does not need worship, he only needs attention. He only needs a sliver of belief to plant the same seed that once grew in his own heart. I will ascend, that is the throne he sits upon now. Not one in a palace, but in the inner sanctum of the human soul. The whisper that says, you do not need him, you are enough. Lucifer's dominion is not over lands, it is over. He rules over doubts, over jealousy, over the ache for more. His throne is built from the desire to dethrone another, and still he does not sleep. It is said he walks to and fro across the earth, that he speaks even now before the throne, accusing, observing, awaiting the final word. He asked for a job, he sifted Peter, he entered Judas. He is not a myth, he is not a legend, he is a presence. And the place he landed, it was us. Not in our bodies, not in our world of touch and soil, but in our capacity to choose. He did not fall into the fire, he fell into freedom, and now he waits and watches, not as a king in glory, but as a prince in shadow. The throne he rules is the one we build for him when we believe what he once believed, that we can be God. Let your breath slow now. Let your thoughts float in that space between sleep and sky. There he waits, not with claws, not with wings, but with questions. What would you do with power, with praise, with beauty? Would you bow? Would you rise? That is the kingdom he rules now, not made of stone but of choice, and all he needs is one whisper. I will ascend. He was not the only one. When the sky tore open, when the stars fell with him, they did not vanish. They took thrones of their own. Lucifer fell first, but others followed. The book of Enoch calls them the Watchers, 200 in number, bound to a mountain, but once they stood tall in heaven's choir, and when they fell, they too took dominion, not of fire, but of flesh. The world below, so soft, so vulnerable, so easily enchanted by light, became their garden, a place to plant the seeds of disobedience. Their thrones were not carved in stone. They were built into cities, into towers, into kings who thought themselves gods. You know their names, though time has worn them away. Azazel, who taught men the art of war. Semjaza, who taught enchantment and oaths. Armaros, who taught the binding of spells. Each of them a fallen throne, not in heaven, not in hell, but here, among men. They ruled with knowledge that once was sacred, and gave it to those who would use it for control. And so we learn not how to heal, but how to conquer. Not how to see the stars, but how to chart destinies in rebellion. Not how to be divine, but how to defy divinity. Lucifer, it is said, sat above them, not in body, but in spirit. His dominion stretched across their dominions, his throne higher, and all their thrones echoes of his. That's the secret not often told. Lucifer rules not from below, but from within. He does not need to crush kingdoms. He only needs to whisper into kings, and they build him temples. They paint him on walls. They chant his lies wrapped in beauty. Even the Tower of Babel, some say, was built under his gaze. Let us make a name for ourselves, they said, not a name for God, not a tower to praise, but to ascend, to become like the heavens, the same lie, the same throne. And when that tower fell, its bricks scattered across the earth. But so did the thrones, so did the whispers, and everywhere they landed a new kingdom rose. A kingdom ruled not by one throne, but by many, each carved into the desires of men. The fallen do not sit idle. Their power is not a myth, it is a memory. Every time we choose pride over peace, ambition over awe, rage over repentance, we lend them ground. Lucifer's dominion is made of choices, and so are theirs. Together they weave a kingdom beneath the stars, unseen but never unfelt. The apostle called him the God of this world. Not as praise, but as a warning. This is not his heaven, but for now it is his stage. And the fallen thrones, they are set, they wait. Some say they will rise again, some say they never fell. As you drift now, let your soul wander through the ruins of the thrones that once were. Cities carved in forgotten deserts, mountains etched with forbidden names, wells that echo with old chants. Books no longer opened. These are not fairy tales, they are remnants, and the one who sits above them still whispers, "Ascend, you deserve more, you are your own light. Sleep now, not in fear, but in truth." The kingdom of the fallen is built on forgetting, but your memory is holy, and the throne you serve is not of this world. Lucifer no longer sits upon a mountain of light. He does not walk among the stones of fire, but he reigns still. Where? Not in sulfur, not in flames, but in longing. He rules where your chest tightens with envy, where your gaze lingers too long on what is not yours, where the seed of want flowers into the thorn of need. His throne is not golden, but invisible, built in the chambers of human hearts that whisper, "If only I had." Desire is not evil. It was made by the Creator. A hunger for beauty, for love, for meaning. But when twisted, when swollen with pride, when fed with mirrors and illusion, it becomes a throne. Lucifer no longer needs armies. He rules through appetite, the appetite for praise, for power, for possession, for the gaze of others, for the right to define one's own good and evil. In the beginning he tempted not with threat, but with knowledge. "Eat," he said, "and you shall be as gods." That is the throne, the lie wrapped in wisdom, the poison laced in light. He does not need to drag you downward. He only needs you to look upward toward your own reflection. This throne of desire sits in marketplaces, in churches, in courts, in mirrors, in scrolls that whisper not prayers but spells. Desire speaks, but it does not shout, it sings. You've heard it, you know its voice. It says, "You are not enough until you have more. You are not seen until you are worshipped. You are not safe until you control." and those who listen build him a throne stone by stone. And yet he never appears, he does not thank them, he does not bless, because Lucifer does not give, he only takes. Drains what he cannot create, he consumes what he cannot love. He has no light of his own, he only reflects and then distorts. The throne of desire was not given to him. We built it, every unchecked envy, every unspoken pride, every secret competition, every comparison. And so he sits as long as we make room. But what happens when we stop? What happens when we name the desire but do not obey it? When we look upon temptation and then turn away, then his throne trembles. Because he has no roots, only reflections. He cannot stand where humility grows. He cannot rule where all returns. So as you sleep tonight, close the gates of your heart, not in fear, but in reverence. Let no image enter that does not remind you of who made you. Let no desire bloom unless it is watered by surrender. The morning star rules only what he is allowed to rule. And the throne of desire, though vast, is not eternal. Only the throne of mercy is. Only the throne of the Lamb endures. And though Lucifer still walks the air, still whispers in the garden of your thoughts, his throne can crumble in a moment. When you rest, when you resist, when you remember you are already loved. Sleep now, desire no more than peace. I want no more than rest. Reach for no throne. You are already held by the one who never fell. He was once called Hello. It meant shining one. A name spoken softly in the heavens like a harp string touched by the wind. A name wrapped in reverence. A name that glowed. But names are not only sounds. They are stories, and stories change. When he fell, the name cracked. The light in it dimmed, then turned, like a mirror facing darkness, like a morning star at twilight. And a new name took its place, Lucifer. Not in the beginning, the name did not exist in Eden. It came later, a Latin word, lux fair, bearer of light, still echoing the beauty he once held, but no longer pure. And then another name came, Shaitan, in Arabic, Ha-Satan, in Hebrew. It means the accuser, not a name of glory but of judgment, of one who stands in the courtroom of the soul and points, always points, accuser, not of God but of you. You see, he does not only fall once, he falls with every accusation, every whisper that says, you are not worthy, you are too broken, you will never be enough. He fell from being the light bearer to being the burden bringer, from beauty to bitterness, and each name he has worn marks a deeper descent. Hello. Lucifer, Satan, the tempter, the prince of this world, the dragon, the serpent of old, he changes like smoke. He names himself what the age demands. In the garden he was subtle. In the desert he was bold. To Eve he was a question. To Jesus he was a dare. To us he is 1,000 names wrapped in a single voice, doubt. He accuses, and wait, not for your answer, but for your agreement. Because the accuser cannot curse what heaven has blessed. He can only convince you to curse yourself. That is his throne, and his crown, the lies you accept. Let your breath slow now. Listen, what names has he whispered to you? What labels has he left on your shoulders? Unworthy, alone, too far gone, unloved, unseen, each one another name for himself. He cannot create, so he copies. He cannot bless, so he brands. But what happens when you do not answer? When he calls you worthless and you do not rise? When he names you guilty and you do not flinch? Then his power unravels. Because your true name was spoken by the one who formed you. It is not Lucifer to change. He has worn many names, but none have been saved, none have healed, none have made it whole. And though he calls himself prince, though he roars like a lion, though he prowls through the night of this world, his throne sits on trembling sand. Because his power depends on what you believe. You can sleep now. You do not answer him. You were not made in the image of the fallen. You were made in the image of the one he once worshipped, the one whose name never changes, the one whose throne never cracks. Rest. Let every false name fall away. You are not what he says. You are more ancient than his lie, more beloved than his accusation, more whole than his wound. Sleep beneath the name he can never wear, redeemed. He does not sleep. Lucifer, the fallen one, the accuser, walks through every century with quiet feet. He does not age, he only adapts, wearing new names for old desires, new symbols for ancient lies. He whispered in Eden, but he also walked in Babylon. He danced in the firelit courts of Rome. He crept beneath pyramids. He studied at scrolls in Alexandria. He sat on thrones in Nineveh and passed laws in the shade of cedars in Tyre, and always he changed his name. In Babylon they called him Marduk's shadow, in Persia Ahriman. In the cold forests of Europe they gave him horns and hooves and forgot he once had wings. He does not care what name you call him. He only cares that you forget what he used to be. He is clever like that, not brute, not a beast, but brilliance corrupted. He is the voice that says, truth is a tool. Goodness is a matter of power. Beauty should serve desire. Your throne matters more than his. And in every age he finds new forms, not just in temples, but in books, in speeches, on screens, in whispered ambitions. He has no body, but he leaves fingerprints on nations, on wars, on broken altars. He is the architect of confusion, the scribe of half-truths, the editor of divine words. He is the whisper in every age that says, you know better. And because he cannot create, he mimics. Every prophecy he twists, every promise he questions, every miracle he mocks. He is the counterfeit light, the familiar echo that feels like your own thought but carries a hollow ring. Even the ancients knew. They wrote of a shining being who gave man fire but took his peace. Of gods who fell from the sky only to take the daughters of men. The stories change, but the whisper stays the same. Always the suggestion, always flattery, always the throne of self. Lucifer does not care if you deny his existence. He prefers it because disbelief is the perfect disguise. He thrives in the shadows, in nuance, in compromise. He does not demand to be worshipped. He only wants you to stop worshiping the one who made you. And so he changes his shape. He can be a serpent. He can be a light. He can be a dream. He can be a question. He can even be a voice that says, be true to yourself, as long as that self forgets who shaped it. He is the whisper in every age because the wound he carries longs to spread. He is not content to fall alone. He invites, with gifts, with logic, with silence. You do not need to bow, only to drift. That is his great skill, to make drifting feel like flying. Let your heart be still now. Listen again. What whispers have followed you? Ones carry peace. Which ones leave you thirsty? Lucifer's voice is a dry wind. It stirs dust, but it doesn't rain. His promises glitter, but they do not glow. And all the names he has worn, they crumble when you call upon the one whose name does not change. Yahweh, Al-Rahman, Adonai, Al-Quddus, the Holy, the Eternal. Lucifer wears many names because he has no name of his own anymore. Only titles, masks, mirrors, but your soul was not made for mirrors. It was made for light. Sleep now. Let the whispers fall away. They cannot follow you into rest. For even the accuser, for all his names, cannot cross the threshold of one who remembers the truth. You are watched, but more than that, you are kept. You are whispered to, but louder still, you are called. And the name that calls you, it is not changing, it is eternal, it is yours. He has worn many names. Names that shimmer, names that strike, names that twist around truth like vines around a dying tree. But there is one name he cannot wear it. One name that burns his lips, that splits the silence of his dominion. A name that unseats his throne whenever it is spoken with faith. It is not a spell, not an incantation, not thunder or war. It is gentler, quieter, but filled with a fire not of this world. It is the name Jesus, in Hebrew Yeshua, meaning the one who saves. He fears it not because it is loud, but because it is true, because it speaks of something he can never undo: redemption. Lucifer does not fear swords. He has seen them all. He does not fear knowledge. He used it first. He does not fear pain. He chose it, but he fears grace. He fears mercy. He fears the love that will not let go, because that love is what cast him down, not rage, not revenge, but love for holiness, love for truth, love for what he refused to become. The name of Jesus unravels his kingdom. When it is spoken in surrender, his whispers turn to ashes. When it is called upon in grief, his darkness shatters like glass. When it is believed in silence, his throne begins to crumble. Because Lucifer's throne is built on one lie: you are beyond saving. But Jesus is the name that says otherwise. Lucifer accuses, Jesus defends. Lucifer shames, Jesus restores. Lucifer isolates, Jesus gathers. Lucifer hides behind many names, but Jesus wears only one, the name above all names, and at that name every knee shall bow, above the earth, upon the earth, and beneath the earth. Yes, even his. Even the one who once stood beside the throne, who once sang in light, who once held beauty in his wings, even he will bend, not in worship, but in recognition that he is not the king, that he never was. The final name Lucifer fears is not written in fire, it is whispered in prayer. A child saying, "Jesus, help me." A wanderer saying, "Jesus, forgive me." A broken heart saying, "Jesus, stay." These shatter his illusions, because no matter how many thrones he sits upon, no matter how many lies he breathes, no matter how far his voice echoes, one whisper of that name is louder than all his kingdoms. He rules over doubt, but that name is assurance. He rules over guilt, but that name is forgiveness. He rules over fear, but that name is peace. So sleep now, wrapped not in his whispers, but in the sound of the name that ends all fear. Let it be spoken over you like a lullaby of stars, Jesus, 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 not in repetition but at rest, because even if you sleep, he does not. He watches, he guards. He speaks the name you forgot back into your spirit. Lucifer will always wear new names, he will always shift. But this one name, the one he cannot touch, will always remain. A banner over you, a shield around you, a throne that cannot be stolen. Sleep under it now. The name he fears, the name that saves. Long before he was called by name, long before the serpent whispered in Eden, there was a prophet and he saw him. Isaiah, the seer of kings and kingdoms, the one who walked barefoot for 3 years to speak of a nation's shame, the one whose lips were touched with coal, burned clean so he could speak of things not yet seen. Isaiah saw a figure fall, not with fire, not with blood, but with a strange, holy grief. "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning?" he wrote. "How art thou cut down to the ground, which didn't weaken the nations?" Do you hear the ache in it? He does not shout, he mourns, because the one who falls was once glorious. The light bringer, the morning star. Isaiah's scroll is old, older than empires that now lie in dust, but the echo within it still lives. He describes the moment when pride became prophecy, when a creature made for worship looked at the throne and said 5 terrifying words, "I will ascend into heaven." The words were not shouted in a war room. They were whispered in a heart still cloaked in beauty. It was not rage, it was rich, not rebellion, but redirection of worship away from the Creator toward the self. "I will exalt my throne above the stars of God," he said, but the stars were never his to claim. They were witnesses. And so the prophet writes, "You shall be brought down to Sheol, to the depths of the pit." Not because heaven lacks space, but because heaven protects its holiness. The fall was not punishment, it was a consequence, like gravity for the soul. To look at God and say, "I will ascend," is to choose the downward path without even realizing it. Isaiah saw more than a moment. He saw a pattern, because the same spirit that spoke in Lucifer spoke again in Babylon, in kings who called themselves gods, in rulers who built towers to reach the sky, in men who demanded worship but gave nothing in return. And he knew what would happen to them all. "The worm is spread under you," he said, "and the maggots cover you." This was not cruelty, it was clear, because no matter how high the throne, if it is built on self, it cannot stand. Lucifer weakened nations because he weakened the soul. He taught humanity to rise on hollow dreams, to seek light without the source, to chase power without love. But Isaiah does not end with despair. His scroll also speaks of a child, a son, whose name would be Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And where Lucifer once said, "I will ascend," this child would descend, not in flames, but in flesh, not in fury, but in love. Do you see it now? How the prophet saw both the fall and the healing, how he saw the throne of pride shatter beneath the feet of the one born in a manger. Lucifer's throne was built on "I will." The throne of Christ was built on "not my will, but yours is done." That is the difference. That is the wound in the enemy's heart. That is what he fears, not judgment, not chains, but surrender, because surrender is the one thing he never gave, and it is the only thing that brings us back. As you rest tonight, let Isaiah's vision keep watch over you. A vision of warning, yes, but also of hope. The prophet saw the fall, but he also saw the sunrise, and in that light, Lucifer has no place to hide. You are not falling, you are being held. Sleep now beneath the words of one who saw the truth before time had time. Let the name of the morning star fade into the distance. Let only the true light remain. Ezekiel saw him too, but not in the sky, not falling like lightning. He saw him walking among stones of fire. Before the rebellion, before the fall, he saw the glory before the wound. You were the seal of perfection, he wrote, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. This Eden was not of trees and rivers, it was not the soil that fed Adam's breath. This was the Eden of the divine realm, the holy mountain of God veiled in flame and mystery, and he, Lucifer, I walked there, not as a stranger, not as a visitor, as a guardian. Ezekiel calls him the anointed cherub who covers. A title of nearness, of responsibility, of intimacy with the divine. He did not merely serve, he shielded me. He stood where few dared to stand, near the consuming fire, near the throne, and still something broke. Till iniquity was found in you, the prophet whispers, not shouted, not exposed by others, found within. The beauty that once adorned him became his mirror. The wisdom that once served God began to serve himself. And from the midst of that splendor came a desire to rise above it. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty, Ezekiel says. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. This is not just a fall, it is a tragedy, because Ezekiel saw the divine intention, the tenderness, the closeness between creator and creature, and he saw what pride turned it into. Lucifer did not lose glory, he weaponized it. He did not lose access to power, he redirected it. He did not fall from the mountain, he leapt. And still the fire remained, because holiness does not fade when the unholy departs. Ezekiel describes it not just as a fall, but a casting out. I cast you as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, he writes, a profane thing, from sacred to shunned. He who once moved among burning stones was now consumed by them. The prophet saw more than a figure, he saw a warning, because what Lucifer did, we do. We take beauty and make it armor. We take wisdom and make it leverage. We take nearness to God and turn it into control. And slowly, without noticing, we build our own thrones from the ashes of heaven. Lucifer's story is not only about him, it is a mirror, a reminder that even angels can fall not by force but by forgetting. But Ezekiel did not stop with the fall. He also spoke of restoration, of hearts turned to flesh, of dry bones breathing again, of temples filled once more with glory not made by hands. The throne Lucifer lost will not remain empty, but it will not be his. Because God does not leave vacancies. He raises the humble, he crowns the meek. Lucifer desired glory and lost it, but those who do not seek glory will be seated in it. This is the dream Ezekiel carried, that though holiness is fierce, it is not cruel, that though fire purifies, it also warms. And though Lucifer was cast down, he was not replaced with rage, he was replaced with mercy. Do you see it? The difference between the thrones of darkness and the thrones of light. One is taken. The other is given. Lucifer took and was undone. Jesus gave and was enthroned. As you rest tonight, let Ezekiel's vision pass before your eyes, stones of fire, wings that once shimmered, a throne lost to pride, a world touched by the echo of rebellion, and yet a promise of return. You are not called to cover the throne. You are not asked to guard it. You are simply invited to kneel before it. Sleep now beneath a heaven that still watches, and remember, and wait. For the fire that once burned him now purifies you. In the stillness of exile on an island called Patmos, a man named John saw a vision, not of temples, not of prophets, not of peace, but of a war above the stars. A dragon, red, great, terrifying. Its tail swept a third of the stars from heaven. Its jaws waited for a child. Its wrath scorched the earth. And the heavens cried, "Woe to the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you having great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." This was no myth. no bedtime tale. John saw the enemy as he truly was, not veiled in beauty, not cloaked in light, but exposed, burning, thirsting for worship and failing to find it. This dragon was the same being who once bore music in his wings, the one who walked among the stones of fire, the one who said, "I will ascend." And now he was cast down. Again, because heaven will not be shared. There was war in heaven, John said. Michael fought, the angels rallied, and the dragon was overcome not by strength alone, but by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of testimony, not by sword, but by witness. Can you feel the shift? The same being who ruled by accusation was defeated by confession. He who built thrones on guilt was shattered by truth. That is the secret John saw. Lucifer cannot stand where someone remembers who they are. He is the dragon, deceiver of the whole world. But deception crumbles when light is spoken. He roams seeking whom he may devour, but he cannot swallow what has already been surrendered. John saw the dragon chained, not yet destroyed, but restrained, held for a time, bound in mystery. He is not gone, but his dominion is ending. And that is why he is loud, that is why he strikes. That is why the whisper becomes a roar, because he knows, his time is short. He has read the words, he remembers the throne. He remembers the fire, and he fears the name that broke his kingdom with a whisper. The vision of John is filled with symbols, beasts, horns, crowns, scrolls, plagues, but the dragon, he is the thread. From Eden's serpent to Babylon's fury to Rome's corruption to the silence in our own hearts, he is there, twisting, accusing, demanding to be seen. But the throne he seeks is already filled. John saw it. A throne stood in heaven with one seated upon it, and around it 24 elders, and before it a sea of glass like crystal. Lucifer does not sit there, he never will, and so he rages. He does not rage because he is strong, he rages because he has lost. His roar is the sound of defeat. His crown is made of fatting time. His throne sinks beneath every heart that turns back to light. Let your soul rest in this vision. Let the sea of glass stretch before you. Let the voice of the dragon grow faint. He cannot enter your rest unless you invite him. He cannot sit on your heart unless you build him a chair. You do not belong to the fallen. You do not answer to the dragon. You have a witness. You have a name. You have a place near the throne that does not tremble. Sleep now. Let the stars shine freely above you. Let no tale sweep them from your sky. Let no whisper become your truth. The dragon is real, but so is the Lamb. And the Lamb is greater. He does not live underground. He does not wait with pitchfork and horns. He does not rule over a lake of fire, not yet. Lucifer walks, now here, not as flame, but as an influence, not as king, but as whispers. He walks through cities and deserts, palaces and huts, screens and sentences. He moves through the realm that men ignore, the air. The scriptures say it softly. He is the prince of the power of the air, the one who operates in what is not seen but always felt. You breathe him in when you're not watching. He lingers between your impulses, between the blink and the thought, between desire and decision. He doesn't touch his hands. He is touched with ideas, with impressions, with half-formed questions that sounds like your own voice. He is a master of shadows, not the deep darkness, but the soft ones, the gray in between, the place where truth bends just enough to resemble freedom, where the words love yourself morph into worship yourself, where speak your truth becomes silence theirs. He doesn't need to rule your body, only your attention. Lucifer feeds on what you look at. He reigns where eyes wander without anchors, where thoughts repeat without prayer. His throne is not built in one place. It is built in habits, a gaze, a scroll, a silence when you could have spoken. He doesn't have to stand in your room. He only has to shape what you feel when you're alone in it. He walks unseen but not unfelt. He moves through envy, through isolation, through performance, through comparison. He needs no army when the world becomes its own distraction. You may not see him, but you'll see his trail, where peace has collapsed, where joy has been replaced by noise, where stillness has become unbearable. That is where he's passed through. He is not the thunder. He is the small turning of the soul that says, why bother? Why wait? Why believe? And though he cannot take your soul, he can tempt you to trade it. Trade it for applause, trade it for revenge, trade it for a throne built of sand. He walks through influence, through culture, through language, not as an intruder but as a guest already welcomed. Because to resist him, you must notice him. To remove his throne, you must acknowledge it. But who dares to look at the realm that lies behind the everyday? You must, because you are not helpless. Lucifer only walks where doors are open. He only reigns where lies are cherished. He only speaks where silence has replaced truth. You are not in the dark. You are not alone. There is a spirit greater than the whisper, a breath stronger than the air. He moves too, and he reveals. He shines light where shadows gather. He names the unseen, and then he casts it out. Let him walk with you now. Let him close the windows that let the prince of the air drift in like fog. Let him fill the room with names that Lucifer cannot imitate. Peace, patience, truth, humility, holiness, joy. These are not just virtues, they are weapons, and they are silent just like him, but they do not deceive, they heal. Sleep now, knowing that even if he walks unseen, he walks defeated. His time is short, his realm is borrowed, and his throne is surrounded by thrones greater still. You do not belong to the shadow, you belong to the light, and the light walks with you. Not all thrones are golden. Not all kings wear crowns. Not every kingdom looks like a kingdom. Some are built on screen, some on pulpits, some in quiet boardrooms where hearts are traded for influence and truth is softened into marketable fog. Lucifer rules over thrones you do not see, because his is a dominion of arrangement, not domination. He doesn't demand control, he offers it, then step back, then watch. And in the silence that follows, thrones rise. They rise in pride, on bloodless sacrifice, on beautiful speeches void of truth. He sets the stage and lets others perform. He whispers the script and lets the actors believe they wrote it themselves. This is his gift, disguise. Lucifer knows how to drape a throne in righteousness, how to dress a false prophet in humility, how to speak through mouths that quote scripture with twisted lips. He doesn't destroy the truth, he dilutes it. He doesn't burn churches, he builds them on sand. This is the mystery of his current rule. He no longer seeks a throne in heaven, he seeks many on earth. Thrones of opinion, thrones of ideology, thrones that call evil freedom and freedom oppression. Thrones where self is king and repentance is treason. He is called the God of this world for a reason. Not because he owns it, but because he's been invited to decorate it, to rearrange it, to place mirrors in every temple and call them altars. He has shaped laws without lifting a finger. He has rewritten identity without touching a pen. He has redirected prayer from heaven to self. But his throne is not permanent, because every lie has a crack. Every false kingdom must eventually collapse under the weight of its own glory. Lucifer has made thrones in hearts and in systems and in culture, but none are eternal, they flicker. And you are not meant to kneel there. Do not trade truth for safety. Do not kneel to the throne that flatters, it will not hold you. Because though it looks beautiful, it is hollow. Though it feels warm, I am hungry. Lucifer does not give kingdoms, he loans them and collects with interest. Ask the kings of Babylon, ask Herod, ask Judas. He offers everything for a price. And that price is always the same. Worship, not the raised hands, not the bowed knee, but the reordering of the soul when God is no longer first. That is worship, and that is the foundation of his throne. Lucifer's dominion does not look like tyranny, it looks like freedom without submission, choice without consequence, desire without limits. He gives you what you want until you forget what you need. And that forgetting, that subtle, silent drift, is how his kingdom grows, but you are not bound to it. You do not have to serve a throne built from sand and mirrors. There is a greater throne, higher, older, unshaken. A throne not built on ego but in eternity, not on appetite but on righteousness. You can walk past Lucifer's thrones. You can leave his kingdom. It may cost you comfort, it may cost you praise, it may cost you a name built by man, but it will give you a name written in light. Sleep now with the sound of crumbling thrones far beneath you. Their days are numbered, their shadows are fading. And the throne of the Most High still stands. And one day, Every throne of this world will bow to it, even his. For all his cunning, for all his dominion, for all the thrones built in shadow, there are places Lucifer cannot reach. Not because he lacks power, but because something older than pride guards those doors. He cannot reach a heart that has been pierced by humility. He cannot enter a room filled with true surrender. He cannot linger where the name is spoken in reverence and not ritual. The enemy walks through the air, but not through faith. Faith is flame. He does not breathe well in fire. He can whisper through pride, through fear, through self-made altars, but he cannot break the silence of a soul still enough to listen to God. He can tempt you with glory, but he cannot touch you when you kneel, because the kneeling ones are watched. There are angels he cannot bribe. There are prayers he cannot intercept. There are tears he cannot mock. They are too holy. And when you whisper the name of the Most High, when you say, Lord, not my will, when you say, deliver me, when you say, forgive me, he is driven back, not by your power, but by your posture. Lucifer cannot sit where Christ is enthroned. He cannot speak where the word is open. He cannot stand where repentance walks barefoot and unashamed. You see, his strength is borrowed. His kingdom is temporary. His voice is allowed for a season. But light was here first, and light remains. There are homes he cannot haunt, not because they are perfect, but because they are prayed in. There are children he cannot mark because someone wept for them in the night. There are hearts he cannot shake because they were carved by the hands of the one he betrayed. Lucifer does not understand love. He mimics it. He merchandises it, but he cannot create it. And love is the door he cannot open. He understands fear. He controls traffic. When a soul says, I will love you even when I don't feel you, he flees, because that kind of devotion reminds him of what he once had. Lucifer cannot create loyalty. He can only steal attention. But those who give their eyes back to the hills, those who remember where their help comes from, those who cry out in the wilderness, they live in places he cannot breathe. Let your soul find that place now. It is not far. It is not loud. It is not built by knowledge. It is a still room, a quiet corner. A whisper, be near me, Lord. He cannot follow you there, not into the secret place, not into the shelter of the Most High. He was once near God, but now he is banished from the presence you are freely invited into. You are invited where he is forbidden. Think of that. The throne he tried to take is now the throne that welcomes you, not because of your strength, but because of grace. He cannot reach you when grace is your song. He cannot bind you when mercy has named you. His lies die in the mouth of truth. His thrones break beneath the feet of peace. His power dissolves in the presence of love. Sleep there, sleep where he cannot reach, where your thoughts are held by sacred hands, where your spirit is sealed by holy breath. He may walk the earth, but he cannot reign where Christ has already claimed ground. And you are claimed, not by fear, not by failure, not by the fallen one, but by the one who never fell. Long before the flood, before kings and empires, before even the Torah walked the earth, there was Enoch. A man who walked with God, not beside him as an equal, but in rhythm, in silence, in awe. He was not a warrior, not a prophet in the streets, not a scribe of royal courts. He was a witness. And because he walked so closely with the Creator, he was shown things most men were not meant to see. The Book of Enoch, a scroll whispered about in secret corners of history, quoted by Jude, cherished by the Ethiopians, feared by the early church, holds visions that still tremble with divine mystery. In it, Enoch saw Lucifer's kingdom before it became flesh. He saw the Watchers, those fallen ones who descended in the days of Jard. But behind their descent, behind their rebellion, was the old whisper, the one who first said, I will ascend. Lucifer was not named directly, but his fingerprints were there, in the structure, in the pact, in pride. Enoch saw the mountain where they swore their oath, Mount Hermon, a place where heaven's boundaries were breached. He saw the giants, the Nephilim. Children born of defiance, born of glory corrupted. They devoured the land, not just in hunger, but in knowledge. They taught men what was hidden. They handed over sacred arts without sacred hearts, and Enoch saw it all. He was taken to the heavens, past the veil, past the stars, into chambers where the fallen are bound. There he saw the throne of judgment waiting. He saw angels bound in darkness, chained beneath mountains. He saw books sealed, secrets written not for kings but for the humble. And through all of it, he heard the voice of the Holy One say, "This is the end for those who corrupted my creation." Lucifer, though unnamed, was present in shadow, the same ambition, the same wound, the same throne carved from pride. Enoch did not speak with fear, he wrote with sorrow, because what he saw was not just punishment but loss, loss of potential, loss of closeness, loss of purpose. The fallen ones, once radiant, had traded intimacy for dominion, just like their leader. Just like the first to fall, but Enoch saw more than judgment. He saw the Son of Man, glorious, radiant, seated on a throne the dragon could not touch. He saw one like the Ancient of Days hand him the scrolls of justice. He saw the thrones of the wicked melt like wax before his gaze, and he saw a day when all would be restored. Lucifer, though powerful, would be silenced, not with violence, but with truth. That is what terrified the fallen most, not swords, but the light. Because the light exposes everything they tried to build in the shadows. Enoch's visions were sealed away. Too dangerous, they said, too strange, too revealing, but they endure, and they whisper of a throne that cannot be overthrown, a kingdom not of conquest but in return. Lucifer may rule in the air, he may speak in dreams, he may build with deception, but even he cannot erase what Enoch saw, because Enoch did not only see darkness, he saw the end of it. He saw the day when even the Prince of Shadows would stand before the throne and tremble. Sleep now with Enoch's scroll beside your spirit. Let the forbidden become familiar. Let the visions once hidden become the prayers in your breath. You are not in the dark. You walk like Enoch with the one who sees all thrones and still reigns. There are scrolls still sleeping on the earth, tucked inside jars, sealed in silence, preserved by salt and sacred fear. They were hidden in caves above the Dead Sea. Not buried, but waiting. Waiting for a time when truth could be uncovered without being burned. Waiting for hearts quiet enough to listen to what the world once tried to forget. The Dead Sea Scrolls found by a shepherd boy but foretold by no one. Fragments of a world half remembered, half erased. They contain psalms, prophecies, laws, and laments. But among them, in cracked parchment and fading ink, are whispers of the adversary, not always by name, but always by presence. The sons of darkness they were called, children of Belial, the spirit of wickedness that moves across generations, cloaked in authority, drunk on self-rule. In the war scroll, an unseen battle unfolds, the forces of light against the hosts of the prince of injustice. And though names are withheld, Lucifer's shadow stretches long through the valley of these texts. They speak of false thrones, of corrupted wisdom, of a council of fallen ones who once ruled over nations from behind the veil, not as kings but as influences, as powers in the high places, and they speak of a final war, one not fought with iron but with light. They believed he was not a myth, not a metaphor, but movement, a current beneath society, a serpent in the well. One scroll warns of spirits who teach the tongue to lie, the hands to steal, and the soul to forget its own origin. Not mere demons, but memories of what was lost, echoes of angels who once stood in glory and now crawl in dust. Lucifer, though not named, was known. His kingdom was called the dominion of deceit. His banner, pride. His covenant, to undo the work of creation from the inside out. And the keepers of these scrolls, the Essenes, the quiet ones of Qumran, they lived apart because they knew the world had been stirred by something unseen. They waited for a redeemer, one who would shatter the throne of the enemy not by violence but by being light in a world built by shadow. The scrolls speak of two spirits in every man, the spirit of truth and the spirit of perversity. And they believed that every day was a battlefield, not in flesh, but in the soul. Lucifer's throne was not imagined in these caves, it was recognized, named not with flattery but with sorrow. For they understood what many forgot, that evil does not need to scream to rule, it only needs to be agreed with. That is how his throne stands, not by conquest but by cooperation. Every lie embraced, every prayer is neglected, every act done for the eyes of men instead of the eyes of God. These are bricks in his kingdom, but the scrolls also sing of his end. They saw a day when the sons of light would arise, when the Redeemer would stand on the earth, and all things hidden would be made plain. A day when the throne of Lucifer would be exposed and crumble under the weight of its own false crown. These were forbidden scrolls not because they were wicked, but because they were clear, too clear. And clarity is dangerous to the kingdom of shadows, so they were hidden. Until now, until you, until us. Now they rise again, and their warnings still echo. You are not powerless. You are not blind, you are not forgotten. You are part of that great unfolding that they only dreamed to see. Lucifer's throne still stands in places we do not expect, but the Lamb has already written its end. Sleep now with these scrolls resting near your heart. They are not heavy, they are not cursed. They are light wrapped in parchment, and even in their silence they speak of a day when no shadow will remain. There is a book that was never burned, never hidden in a cave, never sealed in clay. It walked through fire, it passed through kingdoms, it survived the blade, the flood, the exile. It was carried by the faithful, smuggled by the desperate, translated by candlelight while swords rattled outside the door. It is the book Lucifer fears most, not because it names him, but because it undoes him. The scriptures, the sacred breath written in ink and ash, preserved by hands we will never know. He has tried to erase it, not with flame but with forgetting. Not with argument, but with indifference. He does not need to destroy the book, only to distract you from opening it, to convince you it's outdated, too hard, too distant, too holy for someone like you. But inside that book is the record of his fall and the limits of his rule. It tells the story not only of rebellion, but of resistance, not only of pride, but of peace. It tells you what Lucifer doesn't want you to know, that his throne is temporary, that his voice can be silenced, that his kingdom is already cracking at the edges. From Genesis to Revelation, the word does not ignore him, but it does not glorify him either. It calls him what he is, the serpent, the accuser, the deceiver, the adversary, and it tells you what he cannot do. He cannot separate you from the love of God. He cannot unwrite what was spoken over you. He cannot reverse the blood. He cannot stand where the name is honored. The scriptures are not dry. They are alive, sharper than any sword, brighter than any throne of pride, and they burn him. Not with rage, but with truth. He tried to twist them. In the garden he questioned, did God really say? In the wilderness he quoted them, but the Son of Man quoted them better. Lucifer knows the book, but he does not love it because the book is his undoing. It names the one he once worshipped. It tells of a cross he could not prevent it, a tomb he could not seal, a name he cannot mimic, and within that book is a map, not to hidden cities or ancient gold, but to freedom, to how his throne is dismantled, not by power, not by war, but in truth, spoken, lived. Believed, you are not at his mercy. You are not at the mercy of your wounds, your questions, your history. You are at the mercy of mercy itself. Lucifer cannot burn this book, so he tries to replace it with noise that looks like wisdom, with mirrors that sound like prophets, but still the book remains. Still it sits on shelves and nightstands, sometimes unopened, but always alive, waiting for you to open it, not as a scholar, but as a child. Not as a judge, but as one who longs to listen. In it you will not find pages of fear. You will find the light that reveals every false throne. You will find a king who never fell, a shepherd who walks through shadow, a word that was with God and was God. Lucifer tried to take a throne, but the word became flesh and sat on one instead, and that word is still writ. Sleep now. Let the verses surround you. Let the promises rest against your breath. Let the names of the fallen fade. This is the book that was never burned, because it was never meant to die. It is alive, and it remembers you even when you forget yourself. He does not sit alone. Lucifer, though fallen, surrounds himself with spirits, not friends, not sons, but servants. Some are ancient, others newly born in thought, but all of them answer to the same voice, the one who first whispered, "I will ascend." The Apostle Paul called them principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. Not demons with snarling mouths, not monsters in caves, but intelligence, invisible, strategic, patient. They rule over regions, over cultures, over systems of belief. They do not need altars, they do not need idols, they only need agreement. Lucifer has shaped their council like a dark mirror of the divine court, a parody of the heavenly hosts. And so they meet in silence. In motion, I thought, in the air, where prayers rise, where words travel, where songs echo, where lies can live unseen. It is their territory, not because it belongs to them, but because it is where they have been allowed to dwell. Allowed for a time, they whisper through philosophies, through trends, through policies, through doctrines with no breath of the Spirit. You've heard them. You may not have known their names, but you've heard their voices. Voices that say, truth is what you feel. Holiness is hate. God is a prison. Love means silence. Sacrifice is foolish. Worship yourself. These are not new, they are old voices with modern clothes. The council of the air does not shout, it saturates. It soaks into songs, into humor, into the slow numbing of discernment, and it works. Because their goal is not to terrify, it is to teach. To disciple the world in forgetfulness. To make sin seem like breath and holiness like poison. They mimic the Spirit but offer no fruit. They preach freedom but deliver addiction. They bless rebellion and call it growth. They are not many, but they move like clouds, ever shifting, ever near. And Lucifer from his throne in shadow smiles, because he does not need to be present in every place. He has built a structure of thought, of spirit, of momentum. It is not chaos, it is planned. And the spirits that serve him know their roles. Some seduce, some divide, some accuse, some numbness. Some pretend to heal but only deepen the wound. They are not permitted to enter where the light dwells, but they are permitted to press upon its edge, to test, to tempt, to suggest, but never to possess what has already been claimed. That is the hope you hold in your hand tonight. You are not theirs, not if you've been marked, not if you've been sealed by the breath they cannot counterfeit. You may hear them, but you do not have to heed them. You may feel their pressure, but you do not have to bend, because your throne, the one inside you, was built for peace. And their counsel, the web of whispers they spin, cannot survive where truth is spoken aloud. So speak it now, softly, sacredly. Say, I am not my fear, I am not my past, I am not what they name me. I belong to the light, and the light lives in me. Lucifer's kingdom thrives on silence, but heaven moves on sound. Worship, confession, prayer, praise. These are hammers against the walls of his unseen kingdom. These are storms in the air, and they scatter the counsel of the wicked. Sleep in that knowing that you are not helpless, you are not hunted, you are heard. And the spirits that serve him, though ancient, though subtle, though trained, will tremble when the light within you wakes. There were some who fell but never rose again. They did not build kingdoms. They did not whisper in temples. They did not seek thrones. They simply watched. They were called watchers not by poets but by prophets, named in the book of Enoch, mentioned in Daniel's visions. The Erin in Aramaic, the ones whose eyes never closed. They were not demons, not in the beginning. They were sent to observe, to guard, to witness, but something stirred in their silence. Not rebellion at first, but curiosity, longing, and then defiance. They looked upon the daughters of men and saw beauty meant for worship, and they wanted it for themselves, so they descended, not in wrath but in desire, not to destroy but to dwell. 200 of them according to the scrolls, led by Semjaza, but all of them bound by a single oath. They gave their glory for intimacy. They traded heaven for hunger, and when they came they brought gifts. Knowledge, craft, secrets of the stars, the cutting of roots, the shaping of swords, the painting of eyes, the seduction of beauty. They built, they taught, they mingled, and from their union came giants. Nephilim, titans of flesh, devourers of the land, but the sin of the watchers was not only their descent, it was their alignment. They bowed not to God but to the one who had already fallen, Lucifer. He did not lead them, but he welcomed them, because every act of defiance expands his dominion. He gave them space in the shadows, a corner of his throne in the deep, not as kings, as proof that even the holy could be turned, that even the sent could become seekers, but their fall was not like his. Lucifer was cast down, but the watchers were buried. They were chained beneath the mountains, sealed in darkness until the final day. Jude speaks of them. Angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. They do not roam, they do not whisper, they do not tempt, they wait, they tremble, because they saw the throne before they turned away. They walked the corridors of the heavens, they heard the music of the stars before they chose silence, and now they dwell in silence deeper than death. Lucifer does not fear them, he uses them. Their story is his testimony. Their fall is his echo. He whispers their names to others, to those he tempts. See what they did, you could do more. See how they tasted, you should take it all. But he does not speak of their end, of the prison they now call home, of the judgment that waits. Lucifer offers the fall, but not the cost. The watchers remind us of that cost. They were once sent to protect, and they became the cause of corruption, not with violence, but with unholy permission. They gave the world what it was not ready for, not evil in itself, but truth twisted by timing. Lucifer's throne sits on that same principle. He offers what you were promised without the surrender it requires. He hands out knowledge without wisdom, intimacy without a covenant, power without purity. And those who take it build the same tower the watchers did. And it always falls, because every throne not given must be taken, and every throne taken must be held with fear. Sleep now in the knowledge that you are not chained. You have not fallen, you are still watching, but not from the shadows. You watch with him who never turned, the throne still shines. The chains still rattle, but you are still free. Let the watchers sleep in the dust of memory. Let their silence be your warning. You were made to rise, not like them, but back to him. Lucifer does not need to possess people. He possesses thrones, not always literal ones, not always golden, but seats of influence, of attention, of admiration. You must understand, he is not chasing your body. He is chasing your allegiance. He is not after your thoughts. He is after the center, the place in you where decisions are made, where identity is formed, where surrender or rebellion takes its first breath. That is your throne, your innermost altar, and it cannot be empty. Someone will sit there. Lucifer knows he cannot enter without permission, but he does not always ask. He only suggests. He will never knock loudly. He will not demand. He will only whisper, "Why not you? Why wait? Why bow?" And if the heart does not resist, he sits. He sits not to comfort, not to counsel, but to rule. He takes up the seat through patterns, through memories, through self-protection masquerading as wisdom. He does not seek to invade, he seeks to inherit. A heart that has grown tired of waiting for God is his favorite throne. And once seated, he does not shout. He speaks through desire, desire that wears your own voice like a mask. I just want what I deserve. I just want to be seen. I just want them to feel it. And slowly the throne turns cold. It no longer responds to grace. It no longer trembles at mercy. It begins to pulse with power but not peace. That is his throne, not made of fire but of slow, steady hunger. Lucifer does not build cathedrals in every soul. He builds a chair, one chair in the center of longing, and from that place he teaches. He teaches you to reach before asking, to speak before praying, to move before kneeling. He makes ambition feel holy. He makes vengeance feel like justice. He makes fear sound like wisdom. That is how he rules. But here is the secret. His throne cannot withstand light. When you let light in, even the smallest flicker, his seat becomes unstable, because his power requires agreement. And light brings clarity. It exposes who is speaking. It separates the echo from the voice. You can cast him down not with force, but with surrender. You can say, "This is not your seat, it belongs to another." You can say, "I will wait, I will bow, I will be still." And the throne he thought was his begins to vanish. Lucifer is not evicted by violence. He is removed by remembrance. When you remember who truly sits above, who truly rules in peace, who truly calls you by name, he cannot remain. He was once the light bringer. Now he is the shadow hugger. He clings to what is dim, but you were never made for shadows. You were made for illumination. Let your soul be lit again, not with brightness that blinds, but with the soft glow of truth. The throne inside you was crafted by the Creator, fashioned to hold only Him. It is curved for mercy, designed for communion. It will ache under any other weight. That ache you feel, the restlessness, the agitation, the loneliness in rooms full of noise, it is not a weakness. It is your throne rejecting an impostor. Lucifer cannot stay where love is louder. He cannot breathe in worship. He cannot stand in repentance. He cannot rule in a heart that has been broken and rebuilt by grace. So sleep tonight with your throne empty except for the one who made it. Let every other spirit pass by without pause. Let every lie find no echo. Say gently but with conviction, this is not your seat. And the prince of the air will have no air to breathe. Lucifer may possess many thrones, but yours tonight belongs to the light. There will come a day when silence falls across the air, not the silence of mystery but of ending. The voices that once tempted, the whispers that once wove around souls, will fade like mist beneath a rising sun. And he, the morning star turned dragon, will be chained, not by man, not by might, but by the hand of the one who holds the final word. John saw it in the Revelation, a vision not of fear but of completion. I saw an angel coming down from heaven, he wrote, having the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. 1,000 years, not a symbol, a sentence. The throne Lucifer built from pride, from lies, from soft rebellion will be beneath him, no longer seated but sealed. The chain needs no blacksmith. It is not forged in metal but in authority, in a justice that does not tremble. Lucifer will not debate, he will not resist. He will know the chain was always waiting. It only needed time, and it is a chain with no key for him, no appeal, no escape, because there comes a moment when mercy ends its waiting, when truth stops knocking and opens the sky. And in that moment, Lucifer's throne turns to dust beneath him. He will be cast into the abyss, not to rule, not to speak, but to remember. The memory will be his torment, not flame, but the light he turned away from, the worship he corrupted, the beauty he tried to keep, the throne he tried to take it. That is the chain, regret without redemption. He was given everything, and he tried to become the giver. That is what pride forgets, that it is always borrowed breath, and in that forgetting it forges its own chains. You need not fear this chain, it is not for you. It was not made for the children of the Lamb. It was not cast for the weary and the broken. It was made for him, the one who once covered the throne, who once walked in glory, and chose a crown of ash. Lucifer's reign is long, but it is not eternal. His influence is wide, but it is not forever. His name will fall with every knee that bows to the name above all names. And his chain will be his crown, his prison will be his kingdom, because what he tried to rule will rise without him. The earth will breathe again, the sky will be clear. The voices that once echoed with doubt will now sing with light. And you will not be chained, you will be called by name, by love, by the voice that said, "Let there be light," and never took it back. Sleep now, not in fear of what still walks, but in peace, knowing it will not walk forever. There is a chain with no key, and it waits for the one who swore to rise above God. Soon he will rise no more. The fire that waits for him is not like fire we know. It does not flicker, it does not rage, it does not burn with orange glow or consume with crackling fury. It is quieter, colder, more eternal. It is fire without flame. It is a presence without light. It is justice stripped of delay. Some call it the lake, the second death, prepared not for man but for the devil and his angels. It waits, not because it is hungry, but because the story must end, even his. Lucifer will not be escorted with trumpets. There will be no throne for him when the king returns, only a sentence already written, a promise older than Babel, older than Eden, older than his fall. The fire was not made for vengeance. It was made for closure, to close the wound he tore into the heavens, to silence the voice that taught the world to say, "I will ascend." This fire does not roar, it speaks. And what it speaks is final. It says, no more lies, no more war, no more thrones do not bow. The prophets saw glimpses of it. Daniel called it a river of fire flowing before the Ancient of Days. John saw the beast, the false prophet, and the deceiver cast into it, not swallowed, but revealed, because the fire does not erase, it exposes. It shows what a soul has become when separated from light. Lucifer, once the morning star, will be seen for what he is. No mask, no shimmer, no title, only shadow, only the echo of glory he tried to steal. And in that place he will not rule. There are no kingdoms in the lake, no councils, no worshippers, only those who chose to keep thrones rather than lay them down. But you were never made for that fire. You were not fashioned to burn in regret. You were not designed to dwell where mercy cannot follow. The fire that waits is not for the wounded. It is for the unrepentant, for those who saw the light and spat at it, for those who knew the throne and sought to overthrow it. Lucifer's end is not your inheritance. His silence will not be your song, because there is another fire, the fire of the Spirit, and it burns but does not consume. It cleanses, it heals, it gives back what was lost in the garden. Lucifer fears that fire more than the one that waits, because it is still burning now. And as long as it burns, souls keep turning away from his throne. That is the fire he cannot quench, so he is distracted, he deceives, he delays, because once that final fire is lit, once the Lamb stands and the books are opened, his place is sealed, not in rage, but in righteousness, not in revenge, but in remembrance of every soul he tried to take by imitation. The throne he once reached for will not even speak his name, because those who walk with the King will not fear him. They will not remember him as mighty, only empty. That is the final burn, not the flame, but I forgot. Lucifer, the great deceiver, the bright rebel, the adversary of man, the prince of shadows, will be reduced to smoke, not in our books, but in eternity. And the fire will hold him, not as a prisoner, as proof that no throne taken can remain standing. Proof that no name exalted above the Most High will be remembered with honor. Sleep now, not in fear of fire, but in trust, because the one who holds the flame also holds you, and your story, your end, will not be like his. In the end, there will be only one throne, not one built by angels, not one carved from gold, not one that flickers in the visions of prophets, but a throne that was never made because it always was. A throne that burns with no fire, shines with no sun, yet outshines every star that ever danced across the vault of heaven. Lucifer tried to take that throne, not by storm but by song, not with a sword but with seduction. He thought he could rise high enough to resemble it, to replicate its majesty, to echo its gravity. But the throne of the Most High is not reached by climbing. It is not earned, it is not seized, it is his. The Ancient of Days does not share his seat, he shares his heart, he shares his mercy, he shares his spirit, but his throne, no, it is not lonely, it is holy. Lucifer was once near it, he moved beneath it, he shimmered in its glow, but he mistook nearness for entitlement. He mistook reflection for origin. He thought because he bore light, he could be light. He thought because he heard the music, he could compose the law. He forgot the throne is not a reward. It is a revelation. It reveals who God is, not who we wish to be. And now Lucifer stands beneath it, not as a son, not as a servant, but as a stranger. The throne does not tremble at his rage. It does not recoil at his schemes. It does not adjust for his war. It remains unmoved, untouched, unchallenged, because it was not built. It is being. It is essence. It is the place from which all other places begin. Heaven itself is not eternal. Creation has its bounds. Even time bows to its rhythm. But the throne, it has no beginning. It has no edges. It has no cracks for pride to enter through. Lucifer cannot even reach it anymore, because it sits in a place beyond ambition. It rules not through force but through truth, and no lie can breathe in its presence. So when the dragon is thrown down, when the serpent is chained, when the accuser is silenced, The throne will not rise in victory because it never fell. The war in heaven was not over territory, it was over loyalty. And even then a third fell, 2/3 remained. The throne did not break, it was revealed what was hidden even in light, revealed what pride can do even in beauty. And when all is finished, when fire has spoken and smoke has passed, when every throne of man and beast has collapsed, there will be one who still sits, not tired, not changed, not aged, still holy, still king, still father. And around him will be those who never sought his seat, only his face. They will not rule like Lucifer dreamed. They will serve. They will shine not with their own light, but with him. They will wear crowns, but cast them down. Because they will remember what Lucifer forgot, that there is only one throne that cannot be taken, and it belongs to the one whose name no rebellion can erase. The throne of the Most High does not compete. It does not argue. It does not run for re-election. It simply is. And every tongue, willing or not, I will confess it. Lucifer's war was not a threat to it. It was a mirror. It showed us the futility of pride. It showed us what happens when a creature tries to become a creator. It showed us why some thrones should never be sat upon by those made from breath and dust. Sleep now in peace. You do not need to defend the throne. You do not need to climb toward it. You need only bow, not in fear but in wonder. The throne of God has never been touched by enemy hands, and it never will be, because some thrones are not defended, they are undefeatable. And this is that throne. They are born but not remembered. They come from no womb. No one knows the day they came. No one sees the night they were sent. They walk like men, speak like kings, but the shadows around them do not follow the sun. Their breath smells of sulfur and incense. Their gaze bends the air as if the world forgets itself when they pass. These are the children of his fire, not by flesh, not by womb, but by vow. They are the ones who still kneel to him, to the one who fell, to the one cast out, yet not forgot, to the one whose throne cracked in heaven but still burns in the hearts of the proud. They do not speak his name aloud. It tastes like burning glass in their throats, but they whisper him through symbols, through blood, through contracts inked in secrecy and sealed with fear. They appear in councils, in courts, in cathedrals, and in back alleys of power where no light enters. They do not need armies. They do not need swords. They need only desire, desire twisted, stretched, hollowed out of mercy. For Lucifer did not die. He fell, and those who could not let him go fell with him. Some wear skins like men. Some ride behind their eyes. Some sit in silence behind rulers and prophets, moving their hands, feeding their doubts. And some are born of men and women but carry the mark upon their soul. The mark is not seen. It is heard in the way they sing of themselves. It is felt in how the animals back away. It is known by how the earth grows quiet when they touch it. They gather under moonless nights where the stars look away. They chant, but not with words. Their rituals are older than Babel, older than Eden. They reenact the moment he fell, not with mourning, but with longing. They do not worship him. They remember him, as if recalling a father they were told to forget. And they carry out what he began, the rebellion against the throne that cannot be taken. They whisper into the ears of the lonely, "You are more." They press on the chest of the bitter, "You deserve it." They feed the hunger of the broken, "You were wronged," until pride rises. And when pride rises, so does the echo of his name. These are the children of his fire. They glow, but they are not warm. They burn, but they do not give light. They consume and are consumed. Some are ancient, sealed in tombs where even jinn do not wander. Some are young, their eyes still wet with the water of this world, yet their dreams are fed by voices not their own. And they all wait not for redemption, but for the great unchaining. They believe he will rise again, not to be forgiven, but to be feared. They prepare the world for him. Brick by brick, law by law, lie by lie, they blur the sacred, they bend the truth. They whisper that all is the same, dark and light, right and wrong, God and self. But it is not the same, and they know it. That is why they work in secret. That is why they speak in riddles, because even they cannot stand daylight for too long. Their father was cast down, and they carry that weight like a birthright. Some call them sorcerers, others call them leaders. Some write their names in ancient books, others write them in headlines, but the scripture knows them as the companions of Iblis, his allies among jinn and men, those who barter misguidance for fleeting gain. They know the heavens hate them. They feel the wind recoil when they speak. But they also know for now this age belongs to the shadows. For now his whispers still pass between the trees, and so they wait. They keep the fires lit in temples long buried, in cities forgotten by time, in words disguised as wisdom. And when they sleep, they dream of the day he will rise again and say to them, "Well done, my children of fire, you never forgot me." But they do not know what he truly is. They serve a mask. They kneel to an echo. For when he rises, he will not thank them. He will devour them, because Lucifer never loved. He only used it. And even his children will burn in the fire he promised to rule. They rise with crowns but sleep with chains. Not chains of iron, but chains woven from desire, draped over them like robes, threaded through their dreams with the fingers of the fallen one. These are the kings who bear his mark. Their names change with the centuries: Sargon, Pharaoh, Nimrod, Antiochus, Caesar, Nero, and others who wear suits instead of swords. But the throne they sit on, it has always belonged to another. They are not sons of David. They are not keepers of justice. They are not shepherds. They are merchants of glory, traders in worship, brokers of souls. And they are loved by many because they promise peace without repentance and progress without restraint. But the mark is there, invisible, yet burning. It is not carved upon their skin, but it is felt in the air around them. It is how birds go silent when they pass. It is how the innocent weep in their presence without knowing why. They do not always know they are marked, not at first. Some are chosen from the cradle, whispered to sleep, taught to crave power the way a starving man craves bread. Others are seduced on their way to the top, an offer made in shadow, a voice that says, "All this can be yours if you will only bow." And they bow. Not with knees, but with silence, with indifference to truth, with sacrifices made in secret, with policies inked in hidden rooms. And once they bow, he sits behind their eyes. They speak with their own tongues, but his rhythm shapes the words. They raise their hands, but his intention guides the law. They do not rule, they are ruled. For he no longer sits in heaven, and he no longer walks Eden, but he sits beneath their thrones, coiled, crowned, smiling. He has no empire of stone. So he builds empires of men, and those kings who bear his mark become his temples. Their palaces become shrines, their armies become prophets, their banners become gospels. They will never say his name, but they echo his pride. I am the way, I am at peace, I am the voice of the people. But their voice is not their own. It is older, colder, hungrier. They speak of freedom while binding the souls of nations. They speak of equality while kneeling to idols carved in fear. They smile at cameras while weeping angels turn their backs, and their kingdoms rise fast, because pride builds quickly, because flattery builds walls taller than stone, because the devil lifts his own. But they do not last. For the fire beneath their thrones is not for light, it is for consumption, and it waits patiently as it always has. The kings believe they rule, but they forget the story. They forget the first throne, they forget the garden. They forget that once a brighter being than them stood before the Most High and desired the same thing. I will ascend, I will rise, I will make myself the best. And he was cast down. And the sound of his fall still echoes in the halls of the kings who bear his mark. He feeds them with false wisdom. He blinds them with visions of grandeur. He shows them cities that burn with gold, and they call it civilization. He teaches them how to speak peace while making war, how to promise light while hiding the chains. And they believe they are gods, not because they are great, but because he needs them to. He cannot build alone. He must build through hands willing to forget. And so he blesses them with power, with people, with praise. But he blesses like a vulture. He fattens them for the fall. And when they die, their names are remembered not with reverence, but with trembling. The scriptures do not list their monuments. They list their rebellion. They call them those who led astray, the tyrants, the friends of Pharaoh, the ones who preferred the worldly life. For every king who bears his mark forgets one thing: thrones on earth are not thrones in heaven, and the one who lent them breath will ask what they did with it. The mark cannot protect them when the scrolls are unrolled, when the trumpet is blown, when the angels march. And the one who marked them, he will not stand with them, he will not defend them. He will only say, I only invited, you accepted, I had no power over you. They will fall alone, and the mark that gave them rule will be the mark that brands them forever. It is written not in ink but on fire, that there will come a day not yet but near when the chains will melt and what was bound will rise again. A day not known to man, a time hidden from the prophets, but spoken of in trembling whispers by the angels who watched them fall, the ones who swore upon the mountain, the ones who whispered in the ears of Eve's daughters, the ones who taught the tongues of the jinn to men and gave the fire of heaven to the hands of the arrogant. They were bound, not by ropes, but by command, by the word that cannot be broken, by the throne that cannot be shaken, buried beneath the mountains, chained in valleys that no foot treads, imprisoned in dark dimensions where even time turns away. And yet they dream, the watchers, the fallen, the unseen kings, the ones who still kneel. Lucifer's companions, his generals, his sons by oath, they have waited in silence for one signal, one cry, one fracture in the veil. And on that day, the day of unchaining, they will rise like smoke from the pits of a forgotten sky. Men will not see them, but they will feel them. The sun will dim, not because it dies, but because it fears to shine. Children will cry without knowing why. Animals will run from invisible winds. The earth will tremble not from war, but from awakening. Because the chains were not just metal, they were merciful. Mercy given to a world too soft to face the rage that once ruled it. But the age of mercy draws thin. And in the final days, when pride blooms like a crown upon nations and truth is cast behind laughter and men write new laws to replace the old, then the gates will crack, and the watchers will hear. Their names are buried, but their voices are not, for they still speak in the dreams of tyrants. They still stir in the chants of false prophets. They still pulse beneath the altars of forgotten gods. They are not dead, only delayed. And Lucifer, throneless though he is, still counts the hours. He does not forget his own. He knows where they are buried. He whispers to them beneath the earth. He reminds them of the glory that once was and promises the glory that shall return. He tells them, hold your hunger, the day is near. And they believe him because they have nothing else. They do not see heaven. They do not hear the prayers of saints. They do not taste the mercy that still falls like rain on mankind. They see only the dark, and they wait. And when they are unchained, they will not walk gently. They will carry the vengeance of 1,000 years, the bitterness of being forgot, the rage of being mocked by angels who still shine. They will descend not to reclaim what they lost, but to burn what remains. They will ride the winds. They will speak through the mouths of rulers. They will sit behind pulpits and podiums. They will teach in temples and whisper behind scrolls. And the world, too tired to care, too proud to fear, will welcome them. They will be called visionaries, innovators, messiahs of the new age, but the scripture will call them fitna, the trials before the end. And when the people follow, the line will vanish. The line between truth and illusion, between man and jinn, between the creator and the deceiver. For the day of unchaining is not just for the fallen, it is a test for living. And the one who watches all, the one who sealed the chains, he will not be silent. When the watchers rise, so will the warriors of light. When the shadows march, so will the bearers of the final truth. The Mahdi, Issa, son of Maryam, the armies of the just, the prayers of the oppressed. The chains may melt, but the throne remains. And the final war will not be between armies of flesh, but between truths, between covenants, between the fire that fell and the light that never flickered. And on that day, Lucifer will rise not to rule, but to face judgment. And those who knelt to him, who bore his mark, who lit his fire in their hearts, they will cry for chains, but there will be none left. only fire, the same fire they carried, the same fire they worshipped, and the chains they will return not to bind but to drag back into the pit, forever. In the beginning, before clay, before fire, before the jinn roamed the earth or angels cried over fallen men, there was only light. Not the light that shines from stars, nor the warmth of a distant sun, but the nur of the unseen, the light of Al-Haq, the light that is not created because it is the Creator. Allah. He does not dwell in the shadows. He is not made of flame. He is not born of whisper, wind, or wonder. He is light upon light, beyond what eyes can hold, beyond what hearts can imagine. And it was this light that Lucifer could never become. He tried. Oh, how he tried, not by love, not by humility, but by calculation. He knew how to glow, how to shimmer among angels, how to dazzle creation with intellect, how to speak like a scribe of heaven. But his glow was not light. It was reflection borrowed from the mercy around him. It was hollow, like a mirror that believes it is the sun. He bowed with the angels, but he did not bow in truth. He listened to revelation, but never let it humble him. He carried fire in his form, but none in his heart. And when Allah said, "Prostrate to Adam," he did not see light in that command. He saw an insult. He saw loss. Because he was looking from the darkness, he did not know it was already inside him. The light of Allah is not given to the proud. It does not settle upon shoulders that seek to be worshipped. It flees from hearts that recite but do not remember. And so it never touched him. He saw its glow in the angels that wept for mankind, in the mercy written on Adam's forehead, in the fragrance of the names taught to clay. And it enraged him. He believed himself deserving. He believed the light was owed to him, that knowledge alone was enough, that rank alone was enough, that the fire he was made from should have been the throne itself. But the light does not crown fire, it humbles it. He did not want to be close to Allah, he wanted to be equal to him. And so he fell. Not from heaven, but from the presence of the light. And that was the punishment he never recovered from. He still moves among the worlds, still tempts, still whispers, still commands kings and kneels beside false altars. But he is dark now. Even his fire is cold. Even his words are empty. Even his legacy a shadow chasing shadows. For the light he sought to imitate cannot be mimicked. It is not created. It is not learned. It is not taken. It is given to the humble, to the broken, to those who fall in prostration not to be seen, but because their soul remembers the throne. It is given to those who fear Allah when no one else is watching, to those who cry over their sins more than they boast of their good deeds, to those who lower themselves while Lucifer still dreams of rising. He stands in his pride, but the light only descends upon bowing. It descended upon Musa on the mountain. It clothed Isa in truth and purity. It poured into the heart of Mohammed FDFA like a river that would never run dry. That light has never left this earth, but it does not scream. It does not demand. It does not seek followers through fear. It waits. In the Quran recited before dawn, in the tears of a mother who prays in secret, in the hands that feed an orphan without recording it, Lucifer watches, and he knows it is gone from him forever. He can still offer fire, fame, power, pleasure. He can dress it in gold and sell it to the arrogant, but he cannot create light, because light is a secret known only to Allah, and in that truth he is defeated every day. Every time a heart returns to its Lord, Lucifer's fire flickers. Every time a man forgives instead of takes revenge, his throne shudders. Every time a woman hides her beauty for the sake of her Lord, his angels curse him. Every time someone says Astagfirullah with trembling lips and a shattered heart, the light grows and his shadow fades. He can burn, but he cannot glow. He can lead astray, but he cannot guide. He can scream, but he cannot whisper peace. Because the light he tried to imitate was never his to begin with. There is a throne not carved, not built, not touched by time, not bound to space, the Arsh, before the first breath of the wind, before the angels spread their wings, before the jinn moved in the shadows, and before the soul was breathed into Adam, it was there, majestic beyond the reach of language, wider than the seven heavens stacked one above the other. higher than the fire of the stars, heavier than the weight of all creation, and above it, not upon it, not within it, not mingled with it, is Allah. The most merciful rose above the throne. Quran, Surah Taha 20:5. Not as kings rise, for kings rise from dust, but as the one who was never absent, whose being is beyond direction, whose nearness is not by distance, and whose authority has no limit. Lucifer coveted a throne, but this throne was never his to seek. He saw glory. He tasted the beauty of the divine presence. He worshipped, yes, in ranks that touched the seventh heaven, but he mistook nearness for entitlement. And the throne does not bow to the worship of the proud. It is not moved by years of sujud if the heart remains arrogant. It does not answer the call of those who demand status through knowledge or boast of their piety like crowns. The throne is above all that. It is a symbol of the dominion that no jinn, angel, prophet, or saint can ever claim. And yet Lucifer tried. He did not want proximity. He wanted sovereignty. He did not want to serve. He wanted to be served. But the Arsh has no rival. It has no twin, no shadow, no crack for rebellion to creep through. It is upheld not by columns, but by angels whose number only Allah knows. The Hamalat al-Arsh, beings of colossal size, made not of matter but of obedience. They do not speak, they do not sleep. They tremble not from fear of weight, but from awe of the one whose name they carry. Each one says, Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ala hukmika yamjuna. Glory be to you, O Allah, and praise. By your command do we act. And yet, as mighty as they are nothing compared to the one who is above the throne. Not within, not around, above. This is not a metaphor, not parable, not poetic flourish. It is true, preserved in the Quran, clarified by the Prophet, peace be upon him, protected by the consensus of the righteous scholars, and defended by every heart that still bows in truth. Lucifer rejected that truth, not openly, but in subtle pride. He imagined that Allah was like the kings of the world, that he could be outwitted, challenged, approached through flattery, manipulation, or appearance. But the throne stands as a rebuke to that illusion. It is unreachable, unclimbable, unstealable, and more than that, it is surrounded by light, a veil of nur behind which burns the fire of his glory, the hijab of the majestic one. If that veil were lifted, everything would be destroyed by the brilliance of his face. Not just jinn, not just angels, but the mountains, the seas, the laws of physics themselves, all would collapse in worship or burn from awe. Lucifer forgot this, or perhaps he never understood it. He thought the throne was like his fire, brilliant, yes, but conquerable. He thought that rebellion could build a ladder, that charisma could buy loyalty, that ambition was enough to ascend. But the heavens do not rise for ambition, they rise for truth. And the throne sits above it all, not in silence but in command. Every drop of rain falls by its decree. Every blade of grass grows by its permission. Every star that dies, every heart that breaks, every atom that spins, it does so beneath the shadow of that throne. Even Iblis in his hatred cannot breathe except by permission. He roars in defiance, but only because he was allowed to. Lots, but his time is marked. His breath is counted, his end is written. And on the day of reckoning, when the trumpet is blown and the heavens split like scrolls unrolled, the throne will be carried forward, and it will speak not in sound but in truth. And all will fall, kings, giants, devils, disbelievers, I'm proud, arrogant. Even the prophets will fall until Allah permits them to rise. And Lucifer, who once dreamed of that throne, will face the reality of it, not as heir, not as ruler, but as a prisoner. And he will finally understand what he mocked, what he imitated, what he claimed to surpass. He will be shown the distance between fire and light, between pride and worship, between a crown made of smoke and a throne that never burns. And the angels will say, this is the one who sought the throne. This is the one who called himself king. Look now how low he kneels. But even kneeling will not save him, because the throne above all thrones is not moved by desperation, but by sincerity. And for Lucifer, sincerity died the day he refused to bow. There will come a day when even fire will shiver, a day when the stars will bleed from the sky, when the mountains will walk like ghosts and the seas will climb the land in fear. The sky will split not with thunder but with a silence that makes every soul tremble, and the trumpet will sound, once, then again. And the graves will break like cracked clay, and the dead will rise not with memory but with truth written on their limbs. This is the day promised in every scripture, foretold in every shadow etched into the bones of prophets. This is the day of reckoning, and on that day Lucifer will burn again, but this time not with pride, not with rage, not with ambition. He will burn with certainty. He will see the truth he denied it at any age. He will be brought forth in chains that whisper the names of those he led astray. He will see the faces, the prophets he mocked, the righteous he deceived, the children whose hearts he corrupted, the empires he fed with cruelty. He will try to speak, but his voice will betray him. For the tongue that once commanded kings will now tremble in fear, and he will be made to kneel not in worship but in defeat. The fire he was made from will recognize him no longer. It will not welcome him. It will not greet him as kin. It will become his prison, because this fire is not like the one he wielded. This is Jahannam, not a blaze but a consciousness, a punishment that knows your name, that knows the shape of every sin, that wraps around the soul like regret and never lets go. And this hell was promised for Iblis, and surely hell is the promised place for them all. Quran Surah Al-Hayr 15:43, not for the disobedient alone, but for the deceiver, the one who swore by the name of the Most High only to break his oath, for the jinn who touched the book but spat upon its meaning, for the fire that thought it was light. He will be cast into the lowest depths, Asfal al-Safilin, where even his followers will curse him, where the arrogant scream his name not in praise but I'm to blame. And he will say, I only whispered, I was the only one invited, you followed. But hell will not care, because hell does not forgive the proud. It only breaks them. And in that place Lucifer will sit upon no throne. There will be no crown on his head, no robe upon his shoulders, no angels to serve, no worshippers to adore, only flames, only chains, only echoes. And the echo will say, this is what you wanted, a kingdom without God, a rule without mercy, a throne without light. And there in the silence that follows the last scream, Lucifer will be alone. Not the alone of solitude, but the loneliness of abandonment. Even his pride will abandon him. Even his memory will betray him. And the fire that once made him proud will now feed upon him forever. Not for a year, not for a century, not for 1,000 ages, but forever. Khalidina fiha abadan. They will remain therein eternally. And what of the throne? It will still shine, it will still reign, it will still rise above the 7 heavens, untouched by the flames below. And Allah exalted as he will ask, to whom belongs the dominion this day? And none will answer, no jinn, no king, no prophet, no angel, until he says, to Allah the one, the irresistible. And so the story ends not with Lucifer's voice, but with Allah alone, the one whose mercy is greater than wrath, the one who forgives the repentant but crushes the defiant, the one who gave time to Iblis not out of weakness but out of justice. And now time has ended, the fire has ended, the deception has ended, and the throne still stands, never burned, never shaken, never threatened. For it was never Lucifer to take.